Hello there, it's 6 a.m. on my porch here in lovely South Minneapolis, and I just got up early. I have a lot of things to do today, but before I do any of them, I wanted to make this quick video just to talk about the movie Valerian. I guess the full title is Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets, if I'm remembering that right. A long title, an unwieldy title, an amazing movie that every science fiction fan absolutely must see. For my money, I would have to say that this is the comic book movie of the summer. I love comic book movies. I'm a comic book artist myself. I love comics. I have a very deep knowledge of comics. I saw the latest Spider-Man, greatly enjoyed it. Saw Wonder Woman, and I enjoyed it, although much less than Spider-Man. But Valerian is in a whole different category than those movies. Those superhero movies are enjoyable, but Valerian is a true cornucopia of visual wonderment. It captures, probably better than almost any movie I've seen, the imagination of the science fiction comic book artist. And the sort of artist that just creates one amazing sequence after another. You know the ones I mean. Some artists are struggling to do a futuristic setting or an original looking spaceship or a room full of oddly mixed aliens. Not so with the creative team of Valerian. They have never struggled. They effortlessly create countless aliens and futuristic settings and alien planets and spaceships, and they're amazing at it, and that really translates into the film. Now, many people have seen the film The Fifth Element. Now, The Fifth Element came out 20 years ago in 1997. So I'm assuming if you're much under 30, you probably didn't see it in the theater and may not have a memory of when it came out or how much money it did or how successful it was. I can tell you that I did see The Fifth Element in the theater. I'm an old guy. And The Fifth Element did not make much money in the theater, was not a big hit. A lot of people that went to see it in the theater were somewhat disappointed in it, and because they didn't understand it, because it wasn't a movie that dumbed things down. It was a movie that it was an action-packed and funny movie, but it had a fairly intellectual underpinning to it. But The Fifth Element, despite not being a big hit in the theaters, over the years has become a real cult movie and a real favorite to a lot of science fiction fans. And I predict that Valerian will follow the exact same template. That Valerian probably won't be a big hit this summer. It's not dumbed down. It's a movie that you really have to pay attention to if you want to follow the plot and catch all the nuance. But if you do, it's an extremely rewarding film, and I think that over time, however much money it makes this summer, I think over time it will become to be recognized as a science fiction classic, a real classic. And I think that a lot of people who go see this film who are big Star Wars fans, who maybe haven't seen The Fifth Element but they are really into Star Wars, are going to look at this film and say, wow, this film is copying Star Wars. This film kind of looks like Star Wars. No, this film is being true to the visuals of the original comic strip. Let me just show you an example. I'm going to make a different video talking about these comic strips, but here's one of the original ones, and you can kind of see it there. This is a little bit too much in close-up. This film is being true to the visuals of the original comic strip. I'll make a separate film to talk about the art in the comic. And by being true to the original, it does kind of look like Star Wars in places, because the truth is Star Wars just relentlessly copied Valerian. They copied so many things from Valerian. They copied the look of the aliens, and they think about the bar where they walk in Star Wars. It has all the aliens. That's a total Valerian scene. And a lot of the shots and spaceships and things and settings in Star Wars are just blatantly copied from Valerian, almost to the point where the creators of Valerian could have had a lawsuit about it, but they didn't. they graciously chose not to sue the creators of Star Wars, but a lot of things were copied from Valerian in Star Wars. So yeah, when you watch this movie, because it's true to the comic, there is kind of a Star Wars look to some of it, except of course Valerian is better than Star Wars, and the look of this film is better than any of the Star Wars movies. I'm not going to get too much into the plot, except to tell you that the movie's wonderful. If you're a person that likes 3D, you definitely want to see this movie in 3D. I saw it in 2D, but I would have totally enjoyed seeing it in 3D. It definitely is a movie that is made for 3D. So if you enjoy 3D, go see it in 3D. The actors are terrific. Basically, I would say that I was had a few qualms about the guy who plays Valerian, because they changed the haircut, the signature haircut that he had for much of the series. And Valerian had large sideburns and sort of a 60s, 70s look to his haircut and his deportment, and he was kind of a handsome rogue. And the actor they picked to play him is probably the thing that is least true to the original art. However, his performance, he doesn't visually look like the Valerian of the comics, but the performance is very good, and it's right on the money as far as capturing some of the spirit and personality of the character. Laureline let's see if I have that name right. Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, Laureline is the actress that plays her is wonderful. All the various bad guys are wonderful, but the true star of this movie is the creative visuals that were originally in the comic, which the CGI artists have done and the makeup artists have done a real brilliant job of both capturing and expanding on, in some cases expanding on, the people that you see in the paradise-like world at the beginning. That's a real expansion on the original visual, and it's actually better than the original visual in Valerian, but at the same time very true to the spirit of the original visual, where they've actually improved on those aliens. So this is a movie that either captures the original spirit of something or improves on it, and it's very impressive in that regard. But the most impressive thing about it is the way they just rocket from one sequence to another of just amazing events that are unpredictable and unexpected, and all of the various alien creatures and cultures that intersect at this city of 1,000 planets. That's one thing that is really likable about this movie, is that the city of 1,000 planets was actually our space station that orbits Earth, which we kept adding on to, and then we met other aliens, and they showed this in a sequence in the beginning, and they added on, and eventually it left Earth's orbit because it became so big, and it continued to be added on and built on to until it is basically a floating city in space of 30 million inhabitants. But at the core, at the original core, is our good old US-Russia co-production space station. So that's the city of 1,000 planets, and it's an amazing place. It's amazing visuals from the outside and the inside. Every kind of science fiction environment is contained within this one city because every kind of alien race is represented, and it's the creatures and the fast-moving plot make up for a very entertaining movie. And I'm going to stop babbling on about it and make a separate video about the art of Valerian. I am no Valerian expert, that's for sure. There's about 20-some graphic novels, and I have read, I was looking at my stack here, I've read 1, 2, 3, I've read 7 of them, so I've read less than half of them. But you definitely should seek out the graphic novels, and I just want to show you a word here. If you're looking for Valerian graphic novels, I make nothing by endorsing this, but as a person who's collected books and magazines for a long time, I just want to tell you, if you're looking for these or any hard-to-find book, look at this word, hold it up. It's Alibris. A-L-I-B-R-I-S, Alibris. Libris is my on-site, or on-site, online go-to website if I'm looking for a book. It's the best place to find a used book or a rare book, and you can find stuff there that you can't find other places, and you can usually get it used. It's not a single seller, it's a platform that different booksellers all around the world list their inventories on, and when you search the name of a character or a book there, you're going to get dozens of listings that at all different prices from all different sellers. So that's my go-to resource when I'm looking for a hard-to-find book. And hopefully these books will not continue to be hard to find. Valerian has never I should tell you a little bit about the history of the comic book strip character before I call this to an end. Valerian is one of the most influential science fiction comics in the world. It was originally a French comic, a series of graphic novels, and I would say it's in the same league with Judge Dredd as far as being an influential European science fiction comic. It's been translated into practically every language in the world, but for whatever reason it's never really been a success in America, and there have been several attempts to reprint Valerians in English in America, and the one attempt that I got most of my books from, I think, ceased after 7 or 8 volumes. And then there was a different book. There was this book which you may be able to find called Valerian, find it, the sweet spot there, called Valerian, the New Future Trilogy. This is a book to look for online because this has 3 complete graphic novels in one book. So, and you can see a little bit of the stuff that Star Wars was swiping there on the cover. So this is a book to look for online. There's also these individual graphic novels they're very thin. That's the format of the French comics, is large but thin graphic novels. I think they have around 48, 52 pages right in there for most of them. And this is an example of one of them. Just hold up another example. This is what of the ones I've read. This is one of my favorites, called Welcome to Aflalaw. I think I'm pronouncing this made-up planet right. But this is one of my favorites. It's really a charming and delightful story, science fiction story, and just a really, it's got a great sense of humor, but it's also a well-told story. These are published by Cinebook, C-I-N-E book, and like I said, there's, I believe, 7 or 8 volumes of this before they stopped doing it. So it's never been successfully reprinted in America. I was hoping that the success of this movie would cause some publisher to bring out the entire series in America so I could fill all the gaps in my collection. Don't know if that's going to happen. I have to say honestly that there were I would say about 6 people that walked out of this movie when I was watching it. I didn't know what to say about that. I thought it was absolutely amazing and enthralling, but it's clearly not for everyone, and I think, frankly, some of the more stupid people in the audience probably had a hard time following what was going on and thought it was just a lot of random nonsense that they didn't understand. I hate to be so harshly judgmental, but I don't understand why anyone would walk out of such a brilliant movie as this. But like I said, not for everyone. It's only for real science fiction and comic fans. So if you're not a real science fiction and comic fan, this movie may not be for you. If you're some kind of science fiction poser or comic fan wannabe, you should go to Justice League or your next Marvel movie, because this one is too deep for you. But if you're a real movie fan, a real science fiction fan, or a real comics fan, this movie is absolutely for you. It was a great movie. So far, I've seen a lot of great movies this summer, but so far this is the movie of the summer for me. I might even go back and see it in 3D before it leaves the theaters, if it doesn't leave the theaters too quickly. Like I said, I don't have high hopes this is going to be a huge smash hit that it deserves to be. I think it will follow the same trajectory as The Fifth Element. Oh, and by the way, the Fifth Element, it's not a coincidence that the Fifth Element looks a lot like Valerian too, because the artist from Valerian, who has a French name that I'm not going to try to pronounce because I will get it wrong and embarrass myself. The French artist, his name is spelled M-E with an accent over it, Z-I-E with an accent over it, R-E-S. So I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I don't really know French. But the artist from Valerian actually helped design a lot of this stuff in the Fifth Element. And when they first started working on the Fifth Element in the early 90s, the artist took a year off from working on Valerian to help design this movie. And when they first were working on it, the lead character of the Fifth Element was supposed to be a worker in a rocket ship factory and making rockets, you know. And then the movie went into development hell and was backburnered by the studio that was interested in it, and the artist went back to working on Valerian. Well, the artist was working on a graphic novel that he had interrupted called, just look here because I have it right here, called The Circles of Power. Okay, The Circles of Power had a sequence in it with flying cabs and with flying cars in a city. There was a flying cab that was taking Valerian and Laureline through the city, and there was all this crazy flying traffic that the cab was negotiating in and out of. Sounds like a sequence in the Fifth Element, doesn't it? Well, the artist sent a copy of that graphic novel when he was finished to the director who he had been working on this movie with, the movie that went into development hell, and at that point they didn't think it was going to get made. Well, the director was very impressed with the sequence with the flying cars, and especially with the idea of the flying taxis. So a few years later, the Fifth Element was managed to work its way out of development hell and was once again back on the front burner and actually going to be made. And at that time, there was a lot of rewriting done to the script, and the artist from Valerian was brought back in to develop a few more visual concepts for the film. And at that time they changed the occupation of the protagonist, the lead character. He was no longer a worker in a rocket ship factory. He was a driver of a flying cab, which is directly inspired by the flying cab sequence in this book right here. I just said it, The Circles of Power. So yeah, it's no accident that the Fifth Element looks a lot like Valerian. The artist from Valerian designed all that stuff basically, and the whole flying cab concept was lifted straight out of Valerian. So that's another reason why, if you like the movie The Fifth Element, you really need to go see this movie, and you need to be reading you some Valerian, get some Valerian books online and reading up on them. What else was I going to say? I think that about wraps it up, but I got a, 2 thumbs and 4 stars, way up Valerian, which so far for me is the science fiction and comic book and action-packed movie of the summer. A great film, and I hope you all see it. Oh, and one more little tip. With all these Marvel and DC movies, they like to stick things at the end of the credits, and it's become a thing where very few people used to stay to the end of the credits, but now there's a lot of people who are kind of undecided. They're like, should I stay? There might be something at the end. Well, if you're a person that normally leaves during the credits, go ahead and do it. There's nothing in these credits. So they're just credits, and there's nothing at the end, and there's nothing in the credits or at the end of the credits. So that's just a little time-saving tip that because I stayed till the end, and I know some people like to leave, but they don't know if they should, because they don't know if they want to see it, if there's anything else at the end. But there's nothing at the end here, so you can go ahead and run for the door the minute the credits start to roll, and you won't have missed a thing. That's all I have to say about this movie. You go see it. It's so great. Alright, I'm going to turn off this camera, and I'll see you next time.